The St. Louis Cardinals last season went 93 and 69. Hey, 69 did its last on the earlier team. They only had 69 wins. So hey, we're doing it again. All right, but they won the division, obviously, won the NL Central. However, they didn't go as far as they wanted to in the playoffs. And they lost in the wild card series against the Philadelphia Phillies, who ended up making it all the way to the World Series. Heading into 2023, obviously they're going to want to win the division again, and they're going to want to have to make a deeper run in the playoffs. They still have some key pieces, returning some guys, have lost a couple guys too. They've added a piece too. So let's cover it. This is your St. Louis Cardinals team profile here on Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek. I'm here with Barnes, and let's get straight into it. So as I said, 93 and 69 was the record of the St. Louis Cardinals. They had a very good year last year, and they had two guys who finished 1-3 in MVP voting. So it was a good regular season, and they had some big standout players. Looking at this roster, I'll go to Barnes first. Who are three key players for this Cardinals team? And out of those three guys, who's going to have the biggest impact?
So this was actually pretty easy for me. You got the National League MVP, Paul Goldschmidt. He's obviously going to be humongous. Then another guy who finished in MVP voting, Nolan Arenado. But then the last one, I chose to go with a guy who I think needs to be an anchor for this team, and I think that he'll have a huge impact. Maybe not as big as the other guys, but I want to talk about him a little bit. Adam Wainwright. I think he's going to need to be an anchor for this team, in the starting rotation. He's played a ton of games, 21 and 22. He played 32 games, each season. So getting him out there every day, kind of like leading the charge as far as the starting rotation goes, I think Wainwright's going to need to be the guy.
Yeah, and it'll be his last year. I think he said it'll be his last year. If not, I think most people are kind of inferring that it'll be his last year. So you would love. I think baseball fans, we'd love to see him have a good last year and be able to go off on a high note. But also too, you look at this team. Some other big players. Tommy Edman is big for them. Played both second and shortstop last year. Was really good last year. But then I want to touch on this bullpen. I love the back end of this bullpen. Giovanni Gallegos and Ryan Helsley. I'll talk a little bit about both of them at the same time. Because I truly believe now you have to have a back end of the bullpen. You have to. It's not a if and or but. It's like you have to. It's not a maybe you can get by with a crappy bullpen. It's like no, you need to have a back end, and having two guys in Gallegos and Ryan Helsley who are both solid. They can both close on any given day. I think it's massive for the Cardinals, and especially too, this rotation has some question marks. If Jack Flaherty can be healthy, and he could really be that big piece in the rotation they need, but besides that, there are question marks right in that rotation. So being able to have two guys in the back end of the bullpen who, eighth and ninth, when everyone's fully rested in the bullpen, you go 8-9, Gallegos, Helsley, or Helsley, Gallegos, whatever order you want to go in, it's big for the Cardinals. So I think having that is going to be very important for them in 2023, and even I think it was important for them last year because I think you just have to have a good bullpen now. But obviously, I know you talked about Adam Wainwright, and I talked about some bullpen guys. There's one guy that's going to be catching those guys, and it was their big offseason move because Yadier Molina retired, also Albert Pujols, but with Yadier retiring, they needed a new catcher. They went out and got Wilson Contreras. And that was really their big offseason move, really their only offseason move. So how do you feel about that, bringing in a guy like Wilson Contreras?
You got some big shoes to fill, buddy. It's not going to be easy, and I just want to read this off real quick. And you probably saw it on the Twitter account at some point. Fewest stolen bases allowed in MLB since 2005. First place is the Cardinals with 886 stolen bases allowed. Second place in stolen bases allowed were the Diamondbacks with 1,310. So you got a huge gap,
Yeah.
and Wilson Contreras isn't really known for being a amazing defensive catcher. So he's going to kind of have to make up for it offensively.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's part of the reason why they got him, the offensive upside, which they haven't had with Molina for a little bit. And they are losing Albert Pujols, who everyone thought his last year, hope and pray he can hit 700. It's not going to happen. The second half of the season, Albert Pujols was out of his mind. It was like prime Albert Pujols. So it was like every single night. It's like, what's Pujols doing? Oh, he hit another home run. It felt like that every single night for the second half of the season. He was on an absolute tear, and they're losing that offense. So now you look at this team and it's like Wilson Contreras has to step up, especially offensively too, but behind the plate is going to be big. Also, Yadier Molina, a big thing for him was having that working relationship with the pitching staff and with all the pitchers. And Wilson Contreras, I'm pretty sure he's not going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic because they want him to build that relationship with the pitching staff. And that's going to be big because this Cardinals team, every single year for the last, 15 years, maybe 17 or 18 years, have gone into the season. Yadier Molina is our catcher, and we have all the faith in him to be able to call the game behind the plate and do whatever else he needs to do behind the plate. It's going to be different. Now it's Wilson Contreras. And this isn't to say Wilson Contreras is a bad baseball player. He is a very good baseball player. There's a reason the Cardinals just gave him all the money they gave him. But it is the big, like you said, Barnes, big shoes to fill, and can he fill them?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yadier Molina's first year in the league was 2004. I was 13 years old. Like, this was like, it feels like Yadier Molina has been in the game even longer than that. So, stepping up and replacing Yadier Molina you won't replace him. You just got to take over his job and do the best you can. Step up. Another guy that really needs to step up too. Is Dylan Carlson. Out in the center field. So between center field and catcher, those two positions really got to just get their act together. Like you said, building up the relationship with the pitchers is humongous. In a previous podcast episode, Bleacher Brawls podcast, you can find it anywhere on Spotify or Apple Pod. We spoke with former Yankees pitcher Joe Asanio, and he said, hey, knowing your catcher is one of the biggest parts of being a pitcher. So being on the same page, and maybe we see a little bit of regression for some of these pitchers. I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I think that we'll see, especially we don't know how things are going there. Spring training and throughout all of spring training is going to be massive for all these Cardinals pitchers. Another name I just want to touch on really quickly is Brendan Donovan. I really like him. He's an on-base guy. In 468 plate appearances last year, he hit 281 with a 394 on base percentage. A 394 on base is elite. Like, you're flirting with a 400 on base percentage. That's elite. So I just want to touch on him really quickly, just because not a lot of people outside of St. Louis maybe know who he is. So I did want to touch on him. We talk about this Cardinals team, right? What are their expectations for 2023? They have pieces. You got Goldschmidt, Arenado, and all the other pieces they have. But what are the expectations? Especially considering Adam Wainwright, it is his last year, and you just Pujols and Molina now out the door. You're transitioning to this new core.
So expectations wise, it's going to be tough, but I really do think that the Cardinals fans should be expecting, winning the division. That's just the way it is. The Brewers are a little bit weaker. You may have seen or may not yet have seen the Brewers video that we're doing. And they're going to be competing, but I think that this NL Central is the Cardinals to lose. I think they've got a good handle on the NL Central. They should win it. I got them at around 90 wins, maybe 90 and 72, but winning the division should be their goal.
Yeah, I think that has to be the expectation. Win the division, not absolute worst. Your expectation is make the playoffs, right? And winning the division, I said this in the Brewers video. I think the best path for the Cardinals is winning the division, because I said this in the Brewers video. So if you've already watched this, you'll have heard this. But the NL West, one of the Dodgers and Padres is probably going to be a wild card team. In the NL East, two of the Mets, Phillies, and Braves are probably going to be a wild card team. That's your 3 wild card spots already taken if it is those 3 teams. If it's 3 of those teams. So you're looking at it and going, okay, well, there isn't a wild card spot for either the Brewers or Cardinals. Got to win the division. I think that's the expectation for the Cardinals. It's to win the division. And when you get in the playoffs, everyone says this, anything can happen. And I think, you get to the playoffs, if you're the Cardinals, you're going to want to make a run and try and win it all. Because if you're in the playoffs, that's what it shifts to. It's shift from, okay, we want to win the division to we want to win a World Series. And I think that's what it is. But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, though, because, they should win the division. I think that should be the expectation, and you agree with that. So, Cardinals fans, let us know. Do you agree with that expectation of winning the division? Let us know your thoughts on this team as a whole. Anyone we missed out, maybe that you want to point out, let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know if I never repost. Check out all our links in the description, the Bleacher Brawls website, podcast, Instagram, and Twitter, plus all the crew's Twitters. Also, the first link in the description will be a playlist of all the team profiles, so check that out. For Barnes, my name is Derek. Thanks for tuning into this St. Louis Cardinals team profile. All right, here on Bleacher Brawls, and we'll see you next time.